Hello, fourth graders, and welcome to today's lesson about character traits. This week we had you guys read A Bad Case of the Stripes, or listen to it, by David Shannon. I do not have a hard copy of the book, but I do have it pulled up on YouTube here on my phone. So if you have not yet listened to that story, you need to go ahead and pause this video and go do that so that you can know what we're talking about. And today, the questions that you were supposed to answer are, number one, list 3 character traits to describe Camilla. 1, 2, 3. And then number 2, did Camilla change in any way throughout the story? If so, how? Use ACE to respond. So let's first talk about Camilla's character traits. At the beginning of the story, it talks about how she loved lima beans, but she would not eat any lima beans because she was so afraid of what other people thought of her, that people would laugh at her. So one word that I would use to describe Camilla at the beginning of the story would be insecure. She's insecure about herself. Now, if you remember the Greek and Latin roots we talk about, secure is the root word, and in means not. She's not secure. She's not secure in who she is. So she has to pretend to be one way or the other to get people to like her. So that's one word to describe her. Towards the middle of the story, she starts thinking that, ooh, I just wish I could have some lima beans. But she does not eat them because, again, she does not want people to think anything weird about her. So I think another word to describe her would be stubborn. She's being very stubborn throughout the story, and even towards the end, when the little old lady offers her some lima beans, she thinks, oh, those sound so good, they would taste so good, but no, I'm not going to do it. And to me, that's a little stubborn. She's being a little bit stubborn there. So that describes her more towards the middle and end. And then at the very end of the story, after she does, in fact, eat the lima beans and her stripes are cured, I would say that after that, she is carefree. Because in the end, it says she didn't care if people thought she was weird anymore when she ate lima beans. She just didn't care. And so at the end, she can be described as carefree. So 3 words I used to describe her were insecure, stubborn, and carefree. These are at different points in the story, but they all describe her. You probably have different answers in this, and if you do, that's okay. Just make sure they're good character words that describe our character Camilla, okay? The next question says, did Camilla change in any way throughout the story? If so, how? Use ACE to respond. Now, we did ACE a lot whenever we were in school, and I hope you guys can remember what it stands for. But if you don't, I wrote a little cheat sheet here. ACE, A means answer the question, C means cite text evidence, and E means explain your answer. So we're going to follow this ACE response to answer our question. Did Camilla change in any way throughout the story? If so, how? Use ACE to respond. So my first step in the ACE response is to answer the question. Did Camilla change in any way throughout the story? Camilla changed. I believe she did. Camilla changed from the beginning to the end of this story. So there's my answer. The question said, did she change? I'm saying, yes, she did. Camilla changed from the beginning to the end of the story. Our next thing says to cite text evidence. The C in ACE, cite text evidence. So I need to give evidence from the story. What I have here, like I said, is I have my phone pulled up, and I'm going to different pages to see what those pages say, so I can do word for word from the story. Because remember, if you're citing text evidence, you can't just remember it in your head and write it down how you remember it. You have to copy it down word for word from the story. So, We are on the C part, so I'm going to start kind of explaining a little bit and citing my text evidence. So in the beginning, she was not herself because she cared too much about what others thought of her. The story says, and here's my text evidence. Don't forget, whenever you're writing text evidence, you have to use quotation marks at the beginning and at the end, whatever parts you're taking out of the story. So I'm looking for a good piece of evidence that shows that she was not herself because she cared too much about what others thought of her. So on this part of the story, it says, and you probably can't see that, but this is the first page. It says, Camilla Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them. All of her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in. Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. I think that's a great sentence to show that she's not herself and she cares too much about what other people think. So it says, Camilla was always worried. And I'm making sure to write it word for word. Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her, period, in quotation mark. So it says, in the beginning, she was not herself because she cared too much about what others thought of her. The story says Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. Okay, now I need to tell how she changed in the story and give text evidence to support that. So, I'm still on the C because I'm giving text evidence about how she changed. So in order to show how she changed, I really have to kind of give two pieces of text evidence to show what she was like at the beginning and then what she was like at the end of the story. So, at the end of the story, in the end, she was true to herself and didn't care what others thought of her. Now I have to find a piece of text evidence that shows that she didn't care what others thought of her at the end of the story. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to the end because I remember what page this was on. This page not right there, right here. It says, afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never had even a touch of stripes again. So the part to me that shows that she changed and that she's different and she doesn't care is this part. Afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. And that's what I'm going to put at the end. At the end, it says, some of the kids at school said she was weird, comma, but she didn't care a bit. Period, end quotation marks. So let's read what we have so far. Camilla changed from the beginning to the end of the story. In the beginning, she was not herself because she cared too much about what others thought of her. The story says Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. In the end, she was true to herself and didn't care what others thought of her. At the end, it says some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. So I answered the question. I cited my evidence. I actually gave 2 pieces to show, one from the beginning and one from the end. And finally, I just give a little explanation that explains kind of how she changed or why. So, explanation. After Camilla suffered a bad case of stripes, she realized it was better just to be herself. And there we have it. We answered the question, we cited our text evidence, we explained our answer. And here's what we came up with. Camilla changed from the beginning to the end of the story. In the beginning, she was not herself because she cared too much about what others thought of her. The story says Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. In the end, she was true to herself and didn't care what others thought of her. At the end, it says some of the kids at school said she was weird, but she didn't care a bit. After Camilla suffered a bad case of the stripes, she realized it was better just to be herself. And there you have it. That's how Camilla Cream changed from the beginning of the story to the end. See you guys next time. Bye.